there's always the path forward. And so you have to not let those little hurdles, those roadblocks, even when they seem insurmountable at times, you can't let those stop you from moving forward. Hello, and welcome to Pillars of Wealth Creation, where we talk about creating financial success with a special focus on business and real estate. I'm your host, Todd Dexheimer. Now, let's get to it. Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Todd Dexheimer, and solo episode here. I want to talk about getting your butt kicked. And in business, look, there's going to be so many times you just get your butt kicked, and there's going to be plenty of times. I'm sure. Look, if you've been in business for a while, you've had this before. Like there's sleepless nights. There's times where you're like, man, I don't even know where the money's coming from. How are we going to make it through this, especially early on in the business? Like the earlier on you are in the business, there's plenty of opportunities to suffer, right? But even as you go, like there's tons of lessons you're going to learn along the way. One of the things that you really have to understand is you have to stay, cool, calm, and collected, right? You have to understand like this will pass if you continue to forge on, if you continue to push it forward. There's always a path forward, and you got to be ready just for that roller coaster ride, those ups and downs, the highs and lows. Celebrate the highs. Don't panic and freak out about the lows. That is so important. And here's the thing. Like I was talking with Evan Holiday. He'll be on the podcast, in a few weeks, and he's talking about working with the city and working with all these agencies, and they are building LIHTC, and so low income housing tax credit stuff. So he's dealing with the government a lot. He's dealing with a lot of red tape and hurdles. And there's plenty of times where he's like, "Wow, this project's going to happen," and he's like, "This is a day, like one day, like, oh, this project's going to happen. I'm so excited and moving forward." And all of a sudden he's like, "Oh my gosh, this project's not going to happen." So-and-so just called me and said, "There's no freaking way we're going to get this done." And then he gets another phone call. He's like, "Oh my gosh, this project's going to happen again." And he's like, that keeps on happening throughout the day, like several times a day and throughout, of course, the month and the year. And he's just, there's always the path forward. And so you have to not let those little hurdles, those roadblocks, even when they seem insurmountable at times, you can't let those stop you from moving forward. And it's easy to listen to the noise. It's easy to hear somebody say, "Well, you're struggling on this. Why don't you just focus on that?" And I don't want to see grow your business over here. And it's like, you're going to hear things from people, and you've just got to ignore them. They're the naysayers. They're the negative ones. "Oh my gosh, this is going wrong. You can't do that, blah, blah, blah." Whatever it is, you just have to ignore it. And I shouldn't say to ignore it. Okay. Listen to it, think about it, process it, determine, is this just a negative person? Or is this just a person that maybe is trying to protect me, but isn't really knowledgeable about the situation? And understand where that piece of advice is coming from. So understand who they are and what that piece of advice is. And be very careful who you listen to out there, because and I think most of the time it's not even malicious. People telling you things that you can't do or you shouldn't do. I don't think it's necessarily malicious. It's most of the time, it's actually people looking out for your best interest, or they're thinking they're helping you out. They're thinking they're giving you good advice. And a lot of times it's people that are close to you that you may love, that you may have very strong relationships with. And it's not, again, it's not that they're trying to be mean to you. It's not that they're trying to tell you poo poo on your dreams. It's that they are trying to look out for you. They maybe want you to think about certain things, which is good. And so just be careful. Be careful who you listen to. Be careful who you're taking advice from. I don't want you to just completely ignore it. Sometimes you just have to, but at least understand where that advice is coming from, and then think through it critically, right? But there's always a path forward. There's always the ability to find a way for that, to say yes, right? To find a way to get through whatever you're going through. And I can I've gone through a pretty good amount of stuff, and I can remember all the way from the very start. We bought a house to flip. My at the time business partner and I, actually at the time he was just a guy, my brother-in-law that I ended up doing business with. And so we ended up buying this house, and um man, I put a pile of work into it. It was just there all the time, and my wife was there working, and friends came and helped me work, and I paid them, of course. But uh, and we were just I put in so many hours. I remember we had a family camping trip, and we're supposed to be, going on this family camping trip with my brothers and sisters and parents and mom and dad, and wife and everybody. And we're supposed to leave whatever Friday, and we left so late because I was working at that house, and we had to leave early to leave from that because I had to go back to work at that house, and just putting in so much time, and it felt like it was never going to end. Finally, we got this house done, and then we put it on the market, and we didn't sell it for what we needed to, and we got it sold eventually for basically break even. I think we maybe made a couple bucks, literally like a few dollars, maybe 1,000, 2,000. I can't remember, but it wasn't a lot. And I don't even, quite frankly, I don't even know if I did the full math on that because I didn't want to, because I knew we didn't make money on it. So I didn't pay myself. So I'm sitting here putting in hundreds and hundreds of hours, and I come out making a couple bucks. Now, I'm, you know, happy that I didn't lose money on it, right? I'm ecstatic I didn't lose money on it. But at the same time, what a thing to have happen on the very first deal I ever did, right? Very first deal. And I'm sitting here and going, oh my gosh, I'll never flip again. I'll never do this again. That was ridiculous. I spent so much time on this, and I didn't make anything. And I was pissed. I was just so upset. And my partner on it didn't put as much time in. Of course, I'm resentful. I'm irritated with him. And it took me a little bit, but I'm like, look, I got to push on. And so I ended up not flipping for quite a while, for almost a year. But as I needed to grow my business, I was buying single family rentals, a duplex, and I kind of really just ran out of cash. And I'm like, what's the next step? I want to continue. I got to do something. And it led me back to flipping houses again. And so I called him up, my business partner on the first one, this probably evolved. I'm shortening up, right? But like, hey, let's do it again, right? And so I pushed on, I forged forward. And from that one failed flip, we did a bunch of flips, a bunch of flips. We flipped like over 100 houses. And it was because of that failed flip that I was able to do that. I learned a ton of valuable lessons, and I learned that you have to push on, you have to move forward, and you're going to have some lumps along the way, but that's okay. And so we were able to do a lot of successful flips after that, in spite of the very first one where it would have been easy for me to give up. It would have been easy for me to be the guy that when somebody talks about real estate investing, he's like, oh yeah, I did it once, it doesn't work. Yeah. And you hear that from people. Oh, my uncle did that. He lost all his money. Or my uncle did that, and he has to deal with the tenants, the toilets, and the trash all the time. And you hear these negative people that are like crapping on your dreams. Well, and I could have been one of those people because I did that one flip and it was a flop. But I pushed on, and I went through the roller coaster, or at least that was my first. That was, the high and the big drop, and I was at the bottom. I got stuck there. Um, Look, and there was many other times along the way flipping houses. I mean, I remember sitting at night just laid in my bed going, "Oh my gosh, I don't know. I've got all these flips going on, and we don't have any cash, and I got to pay contractors, and I got to pay these mortgages, and I don't know how I'm going to make this happen. And I'm sitting here trying to count my money that I've got in my personal bank. I'm counting the money that we've got in the business bank, business account, and I'm sitting here going, "Oh my gosh, how can I get through this?" And I always figured out a way. We always found a way, whether it was finding an investor who was willing to take a flyer on us, whether it was getting money from a bank, whether whether it was just scrounging up a little bit of cash, or all of a sudden something coming in the door that we weren't expecting. There was always something that got us through. But man, there was a lot of sleepless nights going, "Oh my gosh, how am I going to get man, I owe, you know, $30,000 of contractors fees, and I literally have 3 grand in my bank. Like, how's this going to happen? These guys are all going to walk off the job. I got to figure this out." And so there was time again that happened, and there was other times where I'm sitting here, I've got so much money, and I don't know what to do with it, and I got to find the next investment, and then all of a sudden the cycle happens again, right? And one of the biggest ones was probably COVID. And for those of you who owned investment properties at that time, specifically rental properties, and probably even if you're flipping at that time, but if you owned properties at that time, that was a scary time, because for me, for residential real estate, the tenants didn't have to pay rent. Literally, the government said that the tenants didn't have to pay rent. Like, you couldn't kick them out, so there was nothing you could do. I remember laying in bed again. A lot of my thoughts come when I'm in bed. I don't know. For some reason, I don't sleep very well. But I'm sitting here laying in bed, and I'm talking to my wife, and I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen here. Like, I don't know if we're going to lose everything. I've got these properties. I had 2 properties in particular that we were doing a big renovation to, and we just got done. We moved out a bunch of people, and I got contractors in, and we're completing a ton of units, and we just completed a pile of units. And so we're at like 75% occupancy between the 2 buildings, right? And these are, between the two is like 200 units. So we're sitting here with 200 units. We're 75% occupied. We got a bunch of beautiful units, right? 25% of them are just renovated. And I'm sitting here going, crap, like, how am I gonna? Nobody's gonna lease these units. What's happening? The government just shut down, and nobody knows left from right. Like, what is going to happen here? And I'm just like, I don't know what's going to happen. I got all this investor money. We're going to lose the investors' money, and I'm going to get foreclosed on. And man, and then I've got my rental portfolio in the Twin Cities. These tenants don't have to pay rent either. What happens there? I've got so much equity that I've built up throughout the years. I mean, what a shame that would be. And it all ended up working out. Now, that was a low, it was a roller coaster. It was me freaking out. But you know, I think I had to just sit here and go, okay, I can control what I can control. Like, what can I do? So we started thinking about, what can we do to serve our tenants, to show our residents that we actually care, and to be good people to them through a very difficult time. And so we ended up spending a little bit of extra money, even though it was scary to do, because maybe they don't pay us anyways. We thought, if we're good humans, maybe they'll do the same thing back. And that's exactly what happened. And I don't want to say just because we were good people, they were good people back. I think they were going to be good people no matter what. And so the vast, vast, vast majority of my residents paid us their rent on time, just like clockwork, like nothing was happening. And they were still being good people. And now that was, not only was that a big relief, but that really made me understand, like, man, people are actually pretty good. Like, I know there's a lot of craziness in the world, and sometimes you feel like everybody's terrible, but people are actually really good. Like, the government literally told these people they didn't have to pay rent, but they paid the rent. Or I shouldn't say they didn't have to pay rent. The government said that you couldn't evict them. And these people are like, we're still going to pay. right? We're still going to make our payments. And I had a couple people that took advantage of it, but very, very few out of the whole scheme of things. And we went from 75% occupancy to 95% occupancy within a couple months. But like I said, we tried to really just think, what can we do to be good to our residents during this difficult time? We hung toilet paper on their doors and really tried to accommodate them. We bought extra masks if people wanted that, and we made sure everybody was as comfortable as possible. We had cleaning supplies and hand sanitizer and things like that that residents could just pick up. And obviously, some people reacted differently to COVID than others. And we were just there for whoever it was, for whatever you were. We wanted to be able to help you out in your situation and in what you thought of what was happening here. So that was important. As recently as over the last couple of years, we've had things that, again, we had to say cool, calm, and collected. And I don't want to make it sound like that's all we did, because there's plenty of sleepless nights. There's plenty of freaking out during the day, right? But you have to just get yourself back to that level. You have to understand, this isn't the end of the world. You got to be ready for the roller coaster. You got to know there's always a path forward. So we had these, several loans with floating rate debt and interest rates, and we have rate caps that we got to renew. And rate caps went from $30,000 to $300,000 or more to get this new rate cap. So we had to navigate and sift through these crazy interest rate spikes that happened, unprecedented, never seen before, right? Where these rates went up so quick, so fast that everybody was caught off guard. Even all the financial experts that thought they knew what was going to happen, they were all wrong, 100%. Nobody predicted it. And so we went through difficult times there, had to navigate that. We've had difficult times with contractors, right? We had a contractor that we had to get into a lawsuit with due to just some issues and differences, disagreements between what they did and what they were billing for and what they actually did. And I want to say 100% I'm right on that, but it didn't matter whether I was 100% right or whether they were 100% right. We had a difference, and we had to work through that with attorneys, and it was just messy. And plenty of times I'm like, man, I just want to give up. This is ridiculous. I hate going through that type of stuff. But we had to push on, and we ended up getting maybe not the perfect result, but a result that was actually really good and worked out for us in the end. Now, was it exactly what I would have wanted? No, but it was good, and we were able to push on, move forward, and get on to the next step in our business to be able to grow. Push forward, stay calm, cool, and collected. Business is going to be tough. You're going to get smacked in the mouth. My favorite quote is by Mike Tyson: everybody has a plan until he gets punched in the mouth. And it's just so true. I've had plenty of plans of growing the business, and all of a sudden things change, right? COVID happens, interest rates spike, whatever. We went actually well over a year, several months over a year before we closed on a deal. And then it was, what was it, 16, 17 months later, finally we closed on another deal. And that's just a struggle. You feel like, man, am I ever going to close on another deal again? All right, man, I hope this helps somebody who's listening, who's struggling, who's getting smacked around, getting punched in the mouth, and is like, man, I'm just going to give up. This is ridiculous. There's an easier way. Right. And there probably is, by the way, there is an easier way. You just got to decide, is that the way you want to go? And that's why I think it's so important to have big goals, important goals that really, what are you doing this for? Why are you really growing this business? Because understand that owning your own business is way more difficult, way more stressful than just working at a job, right? Or than being an active real estate investor is so much more difficult than being a passive real estate investor. I see a lot of people that are very passive, and then all of a sudden they want to go active. And I'm like, man, you don't have a clue like how much more difficult it is to be active than passive. And some people love it, right? But a lot of people don't. And they finally they realize that. And I've had plenty of people that have like, hey, I got to go back to passive. Like that was ridiculous. This is just way too much work. But if you want to do it and you want to continue to push and build your business, you've got to be resilient and push forward. So that's all I got for today. You have a fantastic rest of the day. Make every day Saturday. Hey, thanks so much for listening. I appreciate you being a loyal listener. I would love to have you go on to our Facebook page and subscribe, give us a thumbs up, go on to iTunes or wherever you listen and give us a rating and review. Don't forget to subscribe. Your rating and review just helps us push this out to more and more people and continue to grow our audience and hopefully positively affect a ton of people out there that really need this and want this. So the other thing I've got for you is a free ebook on my website. So go on to venturedproperties.com, venturedproperties.com, and download our free ebook on real estate and on syndication. And I've got some data points in there, some really good stuff for you. So I'd love to have you take a look at that. It's free. I'm not expecting anything from it. And also, look, if you want some help in multifamily, want some help learning, growing, getting your business off the ground, I would love to talk to you about what it would look like to work with me potentially and see if that's a good fit. So you can go to coachwithdex.com and check that out, and we can definitely have a call. Thanks a lot for listening. You make it a fantastic rest of the day. I'll catch you on the next episode.